Hi, I'm Liz, and I'm so excited to hunt that fucking mole down and run away with all their money because I'm not the mole.
I am not the mole.
I'm not the mole.
I'm Liv. I'm going to outsmart everybody here because I'm not the mole.
I'm not the mole.
And I'm not the mole.
I am not the mole.
I am here to screw everyone over because I am Maleficent.
I'm not the mole.
And I'm not the mole.
And I'm obviously not the mole. I'm not the mole.
I'm not the mole.
I'm not the mole.
I couldn't possibly be the mole.
Hello and welcome to the Aftershow. It's a double feature tonight and a little bit of deja vu, but we will get there. I am CLC and I'm joined by some returning amazing guests to break down the first half of Subversion Live Season 1. If you've not watched any of the first 5 episodes, spoilers will be all throughout this episode, so go to our YouTube page at Subversion Mall. Make sure you catch up before you watch all of this shenanigans. Alrighty. Yes, the season did start on February 8th, but before February 8th, back like 6 weeks ago, we kind of started with a mall watch with 3 of my favorite people who took a big leap of faith and wanted to decide maybe who the mall was based off of nothing but the meet-me's. And we have 2 of them back to kind of talk about maybe where their heads are at now that we're 5 episodes in. So I'm super excited to bring 2 of them back on. It is Jabbar and Tayy. Hello.
Hey.
Butler could not join us. He's too busy being a reality TV star. Please stream, or not stream, I guess just watch The Amazing Race airing Wednesdays after Survivor, whatever time that is in your local time. Is it 9? Is it 10 Eastern? I don't know. Amazing Race is airing so late these days, I swear. But go watch Team Walla Walla on CBS.
Woo!
Premieres March 20th. That's Wednesday at 9:30. There you go. What a weird start time that is. Oh, but it's 90 minutes, so it makes sense. You know what? Yeah. See, I should have done this beforehand. Whatever. Alrighty. I'm gonna bring up the mole and winner picks that all 3 of you had just to ground us as to where we were about 6 weeks ago. For the winner picks, funny.
Oh God.
So none of you are wrong yet. Jabbar had Lauren, Tayy had Karthik, and Butler had Davey. Can't say as much for the mole picks, not for the 2 of you, but for Butler. Mole picks, Jabbar's pick of Davey is still in, Tayy's pick of Lauren is still in. Sadly, Butler's pick of Devin is not. Alrighty, so the theme to this is we have another PowerPoint again, deja vu. We'll bring up some people. We'll talk about anything you want. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. Anything in the first 5 episodes, from all the way from Welcome to Subversion Live Season 1, all the way through, spoiler alert, Carrie's execution at the end of episode 5. So there's no rules. Right. I can't wait for folks to come on and scream no rules. There are no rules. Let's throw us on. Alrighty, we'll start off with our first 5 boots. So we can confirm that these 5 people are not the mole in order of execution. Devin, Liz, Simona, Brent, and Carrie are all not the mole. Thoughts on just our 5 fallen angels who are no longer in the game?
We lost some bomb ass TV. These were pretty awesome characters, to be honest.
And Simona, the episode that she left too, didn't she get an advantage that episode too with
she got 2 +1s. She did.
Yeah. And so I was like, what happened? And it made me a little like side-eye at Davey.
Oh, be on my list because of that. Yeah.
I will say, so I knew Liz was playing because we're friends, and I was like, I'm gonna make a Liz fan cam. And then after the first episode, I was like, oh, I like Brent. I like Carrie. I'm going to make them cams too. And I was like, oh my God, did I curse them? Now they're both out.
No.
Yeah.
So sad. These were shocking though. Like,
Yeah.
I guess now looking back, I'm like, Brent, I don't know where he said it, if it was in Discord. I think it was that him and Carrie were actually good allies, or if you guys talked about it on Aftershow. So then I'm like, it makes sense that she would go home then after him if they were both like picking you, like whatever, picking the same people.
So funny enough, they were completely on different pages. So let's put it this way. They were on different pages in terms of what their heart was saying, but in this house, when you're in this like microcosm, that in this echo chamber of everyone kind of saying the same names to each other, that obviously influences the quiz a little bit and what you decide to do on it in terms of, you know, when you think something and everyone else is saying a couple names, you kind of feel the need to also kind of do a little bit with what the other people are saying. But in terms of what their heart was telling them, they were not on the same page. So when Brent goes, I think that reinforces Carrie's idea that she's right. Brent wasn't right, but then she also then goes. So like that's what's so hard about the game is that you don't know when someone goes home, you don't know why they go home. Did they go home because they're completely wrong? Were they just less right than everybody else? But like when everyone's saying the same couple names, everyone could be a lot of points on the same names and just Brent put the least number. That's what makes it so hard about having allies in this game is someone going home can really spiral you either in the right direction or in the wrong direction. We've seen many people in the online series have an ally go home and completely learn a lot from that. And then Carrie learns the exact opposite, feels really confident, goes all in on her suspect, or at least to the best of her abilities.
Well, and I think that so Carrie and Simona, like they have very interesting boot episodes to me because I feel like Simona would have made a great mole decoy had she stayed a little bit longer. I think she just has such a mysterious presence to her. And I can't tell if I feel like people were originally sus of Carrie, and I feel like they kind of started to like look past Carrie being an actual mole like contender at this point. So I mean, even though I was sad from like, you know, a character arc storytelling standpoint, I think that it made sense for her to leave at this point. So that other like big targets hopefully can kind of like blossom.
It obviously wasn't intentional, obviously, like things happen the way it does, but it's a perfect midway point to the season. It's like the first half of the season, no offense to the cast, was dominated by Carrie. The fact that the cast has really thought it was her, and you don't get to see this in her confessional, but because obviously it would have given it away. The reason she plants the advantage when she does is because she knew people were falling off of her. So she knew she needed to kind of like reinvigorate the feeling that she could be the mole. So that's why she drops it in the house. Like she held it on and was going to hold on to it until she felt like people were coming off of her in an attempt to bring more people back onto her. So she did what she could. And I mean, absolutely team TV, Brent as well. I mean, Brent found a way to literally argue and have some of the best facial reactions, even when he's not even in the fucking challenge. I just think of him in the back mocking Carrie during Blunder Boom when Carrie is like making the hard decision to take the 2+1s, and he is thoroughly over it. He's like, good God, can we move on?
Yeah. Brent, Liz, and Devin all kind of fall in a similar category to me, where like I didn't really think that they were the mole, but I thought that they were like people who were like really playing earnest to themselves and like playing really hard. Liz, I'm very sad that she didn't get her redemption arc from like the online version. And Devin, like, well, I don't know how many people like know this now, but like knowing that like he would have been safe had it been a single, like, is also kind of sad too, because like he has the mind for this. And Brent is just great TV in general.
Mhm.
Yeah. Truly, all 5 of these boots absolutely sucked because these are actually people that had a lot of suspicion on them.
Yeah.
It just Liz, I mean, episode 1, Liz absolutely dominated with just the little things she did to really sabotage missions. A lot of people were on her, from placement project and being like, I'm almost done with my first impressions, when she wasn't close at all, which ate up more time. She was really bad in the memory part of the challenge for remote control. She just really had all eyes on her from the jump. And then Devin, you don't really get to see it because it's really mostly off camera interactions, but he's very to himself. He is very keeping his cards close to his chest, as a poker player does. And that's had people really confused. Everyone else is being super social and he's being, the only person who really isn't, which just made him stick out. So on top of, Simona is just naturally a mysterious person. People couldn't clock Brent for is Brent being Brent, or is Brent, acting like a fanatic, acting like he's super interested in the pot. But they just couldn't rule him out either way. And then of course Carrie absolutely is a huge decoy first part of this game. But all 5 of them did what needed to be done in terms of bringing suspicion onto themselves, bringing questions their way, lowering everyone else's quiz scores. It just, didn't work out in the end. That's just life. It's still early, it's still early in the game, even though we're 10 missions in when Carrie leaves. Like, it's still so early with so many people doing X, Y, and Z. You still have a lot of people that it could be. So just
and
unlucky.
a lot of these people are just suspicious anyway, and the little things too. Like, I think Liz is the type of person and player where the longer she's in the game, the more suspicious she gets. So it was sad that she had to go so soon. Whereas like Brent, I didn't see him really as the mole throughout, but I think if I was playing, I would be paranoid about him. But from a watching perspective, I was like, no, he's not the mole.
But a rotted boot order, but 5 people who I absolutely adore and made the first half of this game so exciting, so much fun, but not forgotten. Will never be forgotten. But we do have to move on to the 10 people who are still in the game, and to figure out the question we all want to know the answer to: who is the mole? It's not one of these 5, so let's move on. Here we go. I didn't make these slides. Lee made them, so don't yell at me if you like or don't like a configuration, or if you think like this is a screen full of moles or a screen full of players. Lee made them, so I haven't seen these either. But this is from left to right: Lauren, Jackie, and Matt.
We getting into the mess real early tonight.
Well, Lauren is my mole pick, and she's oh god, it's so hard. I think she still is. She still does I've hosted her in a game. Like, I know she's good at competition. She's so smart. And there are times watching this that I forget which thing it was, but she was like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I'm not good at history or whatever. And I'm like, it's not adding up for me because I know her. And then even her reaction to Carrie, I watched very closely tonight, and she kind of like laughed a little, and I was like, but I don't know. I think she's fallen a bit on my mole suspects, but a tiny bit, like 1 point.
She's in my top 4 that I've been building a case against in imaginary. I think that Lauren, like you said, she's mentioned on numerous occasions that she isn't good at things. And and it's just like, I don't know, it's just too on the nose at this point. I will say something else that I thought was interesting was that when they were tossing the bean bags in that competition where they had to get in the order, she got hers perfectly. Like, she's really good. But something that I noticed is that other people were taking the bean bags and throwing them. And like, instead of leaving them on there because you can knock another one in, she was taking them all off. And I thought that was very interesting. Like, she got hers perfectly, but like, it could have also been a stall tactic to like remove other people's so that they could knock one in. So I don't know. She's really crafty, I think.
She's that great player that she has such a fun ebb and flow of when she's in the limelight for the sabotage or when she puts other people in the limelight. Like early on, she's in the limelight for not knowing who Jay Leno is, not knowing who Stanley Tucci is, but also putting the blame on others for putting her in that position. And then you've got the cornhole of it all. Yeah, she looks really great because she's killing it, but she's taking the beanbags off of it and making the rest of her team look bad, being like, see, they can't get in the hole. Well, if you would have left the beanbags up on the board, maybe they could have. But yeah, her whole story so far has been a lot of, I'm unbothered. I'm unbothered in these challenges. Everyone is, in their feels. You see it in episode 5 in Mail Trail. People are in their feels about where people should go. Just a lot of people feel a type of way about wanting to be the leader versus not being heard. And she is unbothered. She is chilling back, not going to involve herself in all of those things, which you can look at it two ways. Is that, the mole letting the team, unravel itself? Or is she just truly unconcerned with all this crap that's happening? So she's such an interesting character. Any other thoughts on anything Lauren's done in the first 5 episodes that make you think she's sus, not sus?
I will say, like, in terms of the puzzle competition, I think that the mole, I can see a world where the mole would have wanted to go up for one of those +1s or $10. And if the mole was going to go, I think that they probably would have went towards like the last 2 duos or something like that, just to kind of get out the way. Like once the mad dash to finish the puzzle is like the last 10 or so minutes to get that puzzle completed. And Lauren was definitely one of those people who went up. There's some other suspicious things in regards to the puzzle as well, where actually I'll save that for Matt because I think it's more suspicious on him.
Yeah. But a lot of things you can learn. Lots of things.
She says in the episode 4 when they're asked like who is the mole, basically, she says Karthik, which I don't know, just noting. Which I will say he has gone up on my list of suspects, but I don't know. I just thought that was very interesting of her to say. I feel like he's been I guess he's been really on the nose about like helping and I'm so good at the puzzles and like I did like, town hero.
Oh God, that phrase will haunt me. Up in my nightmares. But yeah, lots of things Lauren has done. It's just a question of, is she the mole? She didn't take any money in Chamber. She took an Apple Watch instead.
I don't blame her.
You know what? Player, you get your Apple Watch, okay?
I think, and that removed, 10% out of any cash earnings that team did have by taking it. She's just been, even in that puzzle challenge, she was really slow upstairs with Brent when it was like, just knock over the 6 cups of these 2 teams. They knew the answer and still she kept forgetting. Wait, what are the answers again? Just took a long time there, which is, 4 hands away from the puzzle. It's less people that can complete it. So a lot of things Miss Lauren Murphy has done this season. It just boils down to the fact is it intentional or is it just, inadvertent actions in the challenge? Let's move on. So on to Miss Jackie B, someone who definitely has a lot of people inside and outside the game having eyes on her.
I've taken her off my list. I don't think that she's the mole, to be honest. I don't know what it is, but maybe I feel like 1 or 2 people who've been eliminated have been high sus on her, which kind of makes me think that she's not the mole. And I think if that is the case, she'll still be around as long as possible, because there are probably still a few people who think that she is. So she could be a potential winner or at least finalist.
I also don't think she's the mole. And if she is the mole, she's giving the performance of a lifetime. Like, we do get to see their confessionals, and so they're in the game not seeing them, but she's so like, I feel like she's just being a really calculated player trying to figure out the mole. And it doesn't come off as fake. Yeah, I don't think she's the mole.
Yeah, she is the mole or she is acting in a way that is one of the harder things for, I think, players to like wrap their heads around. She is playing very out in front. She is sabotaging very blatantly. She is unafraid to do it, and that has people spiraling on it. Like, would the mole act blatantly in this type of way and have everyone see it? And that has people on both sides of the fence. Like, it's too obvious it can't be. And then other people being like, but that's what they want you to think. She wants you to think it's so obvious that you don't think about her and that it is her. She's a name that is part of the echo chamber. A lot of people think it's her, so everyone feels the need to put answers on her. And now it's the question of, is someone going home just putting the least on her? Because some people, like Brent, for example, are being super conservative on their quizzes, and the people who are being more aggressive or assertive on their quizzes are staying? Or is it a case of she has everyone missed it and it's not her at all? That's the storyline really for her. Ooh, come on, Skype. But
let's go ahead and crop that out.
But yeah, she's done a lot. I mean, I'll let y'all talk about things that she's done that maybe y'all have kind of fallen off of her. So I guess, what has she done that makes you think it's not her?
I don't know. I think I agree with her in regards to the puzzle piece. Like, when she was searching for the puzzle piece, like, frantically, it seemed like she genuinely, like, was looking for the puzzle piece to help the team. And she is right. Like, I think if she is the mole, she more methodically kind of looks through the box or, hides it in a better place than how she behaved. Like I said, I think that other people have kind of went out thinking that she's the mole. I don't know. I honestly think that she's been pretty helpful.
I do too. Like, she seems genuinely helpful. I will say, Carrie said that she thought Jackie was the mole in that episode. So if that was still like her thought process, to me, that's like a pretty good sign that it's probably not Jackie with Carrie going now. But that was a whole episode ago. So
I can tell you as a exclusive, Carrie did not go all in on Jackie.
Okay.
Jackie was not Carrie.
I will say, all in is kind of relative when you only have like 5 minutes to take this quiz.
Yeah, I don't know how actually successful Carrie was in going all in, because obviously I only get to see the score based off of the actual mole, so I don't know actually how successful Carrie was in doing that. But
there was also something else. I wish I could remember the exact. I feel like it was episode maybe 3 where Jackie did something and she like explained in her confessional that she did it because the previous mission that they'd done, she was like very like get money in the pot, and then this one she was like, this time I'm gonna make it so I'm more suspicious with like this action. And I'm like, okay, it just feels so calculated, but not mole calculated to me. But mostly because of her confessionals, for me, is what's really like made me not think she's the mole.
Yeah, that's been a good talking point in the server, and people who just like DM members of Prod on the side, is that there are people like y'all who think her confessionals come across as like genuinely a player who's being methodical about getting sus on her, and there are other people who think it's this like big contrived act to get you to think that, like, it's this whole thing she's concocted to look like a player being methodical when it's just a big ruse and she's just sabotaging because she's the mole. It's what's so hard about reading into confessionals, is that someone is blatantly lying to you and has a completely like crafted narrative of what they want. their
Mhm.
confessionals to be, what they want to portray to the viewers. So like that's what's so hard, is that because she's been so consistent, there are people in the server that are like, it's an act, but she's done a lot. I mean, she was caught in remote control out in the field. She opted to be on the athletic team, which had people side-eyeing when that was an inherent part of the challenge, like, you know, kind of spiraling out of control as more people got tagged out potentially. She took one of the more sus things based off of the people in the house and chamber when she took $40 plus 30 seconds. A lot of people read into that as, you know, is she a player or is she trying to appear to be a player to get us to trust her, for her to then sabotage later? Because then you look at, you know, Blend Boom, where she actively gets herself eliminated as a detonator.
Yeah.
That was the
Puzzle
one.
Break,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one where she actively, like in the line drawing, she wanted to get eliminated despite being worth 20. In Puzzle Break, she was worth $10. She opted for the $10, but never once asked to go upstairs. She allowed everyone else who was worth +1s to go up there. She never asked to go up despite being worth money. Oh geez, like I'm trying to remember. Trivia, she got her first question right, but then got her second question wrong, and was part of the group to encourage Karthik to ultimately step off of his incorrect answer, losing all of the money. She wasn't very helpful in this last episode in Mail Trail, where she is, I mean, you can see it on the couch. She's like, here are the 3 that go from stairs to the end of the couch. And then they go, what? Oh, let me read it again. Next thing you know, she's rating 4 colors instead of 3 colors. So she left one out initially. I'm trying to even like remember all the challenges up to this point. Good Lord, I'm forgetting episode 4. What even is episode 4? Oh, quiz room. She forgot an answer for herself, and she's just been consistently sus across the board, which is why she's such a prominent name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You just don't know. Again, is it intentional? Is it methodical? Is it because she's the mole? It's so hard. That's what makes this game so difficult, is everyone has an ulterior motive to look suspicious, even as a player. I mean, you look at all 10 of these people, and I can make a case as to why they're all the mole, but only one of them is. 9 of them aren't. So it's what's hard. But any last thought on Miss Jackie B?
You made some good points there, where that made me be like, well, maybe I am wrong.
It's my job. It's my job to make you think some people. I'm supposed to do.
I still think she's at the bottom for me of my lists.
I think she could. Yeah, I think she could be a winner or runner-up potential, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to someone who has kind of increasingly become a more popular name in the server. It's Matt.
Yeah. He's suspicious as fuck to me now. And like at the start, I wasn't convinced, but I don't know. It's so the puzzle, I think, was what really kind of made me look at him a little bit differently. Because while Carrie was sitting out, Matt, Matt did go and console her. And I do think that Matt is, that type of person in general. But like, I also have to take into account, if he is the mole, he had very ample opportunity to hide a piece or do something like that, since he was one of the people who were moving around the room. And what I found interesting was that Anthony claimed that he found a piece on the top of the box when it looked like he pulled that piece from one of the pockets where the billiards go. And that's why I was like, okay, could the mole have been someone who like was moving around and placed that in there? And that kind of raises his suspicion list to me. Also kind of like telling everybody that he's going to pick the exemption regardless of what they pick. After I go back, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's like, you want one less person to be safe, or like you at least take money out of the pot. So I don't know. He's definitely sus to me now.
I will say, like, because of like the boots, to me, Matt has kind of risen in my suspicion, because I feel like he hasn't been like quite as like lighted throughout yet. And like everyone's had their moments, but like I don't know, even I didn't make notes of who every single person said in that quiz, but the ones I didn't, no one said Matt, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't really remember either, to be honest. Like it's so hard to remember in the moment who everyone says, because I know we talked about this on the after show with Noah and Louise last week. Is there's a private chat Anthony has at some point. I think this episode he did. I think Craig also mentioned it here in episode 5, but no one eliminated that I can think of. But again, it's hard to remember. It's been like 4 weeks since the first episode. What's hard about these confessionals, as we talked about last week with Louise and Noah, is that some of the confessionals you're watching are at the very beginning of social time, and some are in the middle, and some are at the end. So they've got about an hour and a half to do their confessionals, study, socialize, do whatever they need to do in that hour and a half before the quiz. So we have an order. We had 3 confessional booths. We had an order to like grab them. So some of the people you're seeing are at the very beginning of social time. They've had no time to talk to anybody else. You're getting their authentic, real thoughts in the moment. And then maybe those thoughts change when they go and socialize for an hour and 15 minutes versus you're getting some people's thoughts right before the quiz. I don't even remember who is who in the moment. So that's what's also hard, is that some of these confessionals aren't actually authentic to what they're doing on the quiz, because you're getting a confessional before they've actually talked to others, and now their suspicions have changed because of what others are saying happened in missions that they weren't as privy to. So that's what also makes it difficult. So I don't say that to like say don't read into the edit or anything. I just don't want people at the end of the season to feel like they were bamboozled, being like, this person when they went home said they were sus on this person, so I ruled them out. You lied to me. No, we didn't. We are showing you authentically what their confessional said in the round that they said it. It's just there's some instances where that confessional isn't actually authentic to what they do on the quiz just because of timing, but also, human error on the quizzes. So like read into as much as you want, but do know that there might come a time, or has already happened in a time, where someone's gone home actually sus of them all, but just didn't execute that well on the quiz and then got themselves executed. But Matt definitely has been more of a quieter name in the edit so far, and now lately has been kind of rising up due to, I think, more blatant sabotages. Mail trail is rumored that he flipped over some envelopes, which obviously creates just wasted time. He has been kind of an instigator in the last couple of challenges, kind of instigating a little bit of, I don't want to say drama, but I think frustrations with certain people and being not heard, and letting Craig kind of dictate what's been happening. He kind of brought that up in Mail Trail. You've got, Quiz Room. He wasn't helpful at all, and was, with Karthik saying that the code should be 1 billion numbers long. So kind of feeding into that. Puzzle Break, you've got Jackie's confessional where she believes it could have been Craig or Matt who hid that puzzle piece in the box, is what she's thinking. The chamber that Jabbar brought up. There's been a lot that has been tethered to him that people are leaning on, but again, that's everyone. But I think people now are more blatant sabotages here in episodes 4 and 5 kind of have his name rising up a little bit just because he's in your face.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a character who, in my opinion, I'm nervous about when they have like very drastic performances in one game to another in the same round. For instance, in round 1, like him and his team did not get out, and he was feeling very down on himself. And then the next challenge, him and Jack like just completely crushes it. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense for a mole to kind of like, not do the best in one of the comps for the round and then, excel really well at another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, another person who's got a lot of stuff sprinkled throughout. Some blatant, some more, on the quieter side. It's just hard to know, again, what is intentional versus what's not. Because he did make a comment think it was episode 4 where he said if Carrie is the mole, that he has been roped in and he's been doing all her dirty work, kind of alluding to the fact that he is intentionally sabotaging a little bit like Jackie is. So he seems to kind of also be kind of playing a little bit into kind of Jackie's game as well in terms of wanting to draw suspicion to himself. So, but yeah, he's been a very prominent character in the last couple of episodes.
Now that you mention that, I think I have to move him up to number 2 because I don't know. I think that that's interesting now in the context that she's the one that's eliminated. And he's still there. I don't know. I would find it hard for me to believe that she would think that he is the mole. And probably would not answer that high on him on the quiz intentionally.
Yeah, if they were working closely like that.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. It's hard because I think I talked about this. This was Hannah and Johnny's after show. Is that some alliances are built out of, or I should say coalitions. Some coalitions are built out of like genuine trust for each other, and some are built out of, I know the moles in this group, and I want to be closer to the enemy. So it's just a question of, is Carrie's allegiance with Matt, which one is that rooted in? Is it rooted in I think it's you, or is it rooted in I legitimately trust you? Because we have a little mixture of all of them throughout the house. It's just a question of where people are actually at. But Foster did a great job of hiding who Carrie actually thought it was. So you know nothing, except for she did genuinely go all in on her main suspect. But any other thoughts?
And it wasn't Jackie. She says in that quiz episode, Jackie. But did she lie in that one? Now I can't remember. I thought everyone told the truth about the mole in that quiz.
Everyone told the truth in quiz room. So that would have been her quiz 3. So she did honestly answer Jackie as the mole for quiz 3.
For quiz 3, okay.
But not lying to y'all, she did not go all in on Jackie, I promise you. She went in on somebody else on the cast that's not the mole, but I won't reveal that name because then that would be
I will say, at first I loved Matt's photo because I thought he was super innocent, but now I don't like it. It's like he looking at me telling me, you next. That's
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, that's what also makes it hard about it is like we've talked about it at length on different after shows. Is like, is the crying real? Is the natural charisma, charm, but like the emotional person beneath it all? Like, is all of that real or is it all fake? You got Johnny's like, I'm looking at him. Those tears are fake. And Hannah Fleming is like, Oh, actually, that's not her last name anymore. But Hannah, she's married now. She a married lady. She's like, no, those tears are real. So like his entire being is polarizing in and of itself. But we'll move on from these 3. I think the next slide is 4 people, I would assume. It is from left to right: Gavin, Liv, Karthik, and Craig. Thank you for covering the horns.
It's just a finger sticking out. Sticking out of Craig's head.
Well, let's start with Mr. Gavin Show.
I don't think Gavin's the mole. I mean,
I'll go on a limb and say I don't really think anybody on it. I have 2 maybes on this slide, but I don't think any of these 4 people are a part of my top 4. Gavin specifically crushed the quiz competition or the landmine when like he was answering all of those questions.
The trivia.
He was
the very end.
Yeah, he was really good in that. I think that he's performed really well. Him and Anthony did really well. And he's a noble and integrous player. Like he goes for the $10 when everybody else is going for the +1s. And honestly, I don't see him as being somebody who like, I'm sure he can lie, but I don't know if like he would enjoy or like, really be able to pull it off as opposed to other people like lying and gaslighting people potentially for 7 days in a row. So I don't think he's the mole.
Yeah. I will say of this 4, like Craig, I think is highest for me of who could potentially be the mole. And Gavin does say that he put Craig as the mole in his third quiz. Then, if that was the quiz thing,
Yes, that sounds right.
Gavin too. Like he really just comes off so earnest. He seems like he's always trying to put money in the pot. I don't know, maybe meta, but with Simona also being in the game to start, like it just feels like probably not.
And he genuinely looked nervous when it came down to him and her
Mhm.
in that execution.
And that's what
And
has
all of his
people.
reactions.
That's what has people contemplating though. Simona was pegged as someone who was going to make a deep run by this cast. This cast was very scared of her and thought she was going to crush them all. She'd been prepping. She'd watched a lot of mole seasons coming into this. A lot of people were fearful of her. So for her to get a boot so early, still playing 2+1s, has a lot of eyes on Gavin because of their relationship during the game. And we get a confessional about Karthik, but the same thing is applied to Gavin in terms of he comes across so earnest, but when you boil it down, like, has he added that much money to the pot? Has he actually been a contributing factor? Just because you're pro pot doesn't mean you're actually adding to
Pro pot.
Yeah.
And that's what has him. He's got eyes on him. He's got eyes.
I think to your point, like obviously I don't know what Simona was thinking, but like something in my mind tells me that like she would not allow herself to necessarily zero Gavin out or not think that he is like some type of suspicious. So I think like I don't think she ever said this in any confessional, but I don't see a world where like he's completely off of her radar as a potential to be the mole. So I get what you're saying, but I see it honestly the opposite way.
Oh
Yeah,
I'm just relaying what the people think. A voice for the people.
Period.
I agree, Jabbar. Simona is such a good player. She would never completely rule out Gavin, I think, from being the mole just because of their relationship. But I do think it would probably be really hard for, I mean, I couldn't imagine like playing this game with someone that you're dating and them having to lie to your face. Like, I would imagine you'd maybe pick up something if they were acting suspicious. So then there's that side too. Like, maybe she didn't go all in on him and he's just not the mole. And she was just wrong on someone else. There's so many people in the game.
Yeah. He's an interesting character. We'll get to Karthik as well, but yeah, they both kind of occupy this similar role that they are very actively seen as players. They're seen as not moles, but then now that we've gotten to this part, now people are getting very scared that they've been duped by a Karthik, by a Gavin, because Gavin, you remember him being kind of like the hero in Trivia Minefield until you realize that he gets his last answer wrong, and so great, you got 3 in a row right, but it don't matter because you didn't get the last one right. So like, good on you to do all that work, but then you don't do anything. He is so liked that he gets to go twice in Mail Trail, and his first entire run is stupid. I mean, he's just rattling off random colors without saying where they are. He's just listing them out as if that's helpful to just list out all the colors in the room when it's important to know where they are in the room. So people are like, well, son of a bitch, has he gotten so into our hearts that we trust him, put him in key positions, and then we just don't realize that he doesn't really add that much to the pot. But yeah, him and Karthik occupy very similar archetypes, and we'll get to Karthik. Let's move to Liv. Thoughts on Liv Pearson?
0 mole.
I don't know. I have her as maybe. She's definitely moved down a lot on my list, but she's one of my 2 maybes because I don't like. She hasn't done too much like overly like sabotaging things, and I do think that her reactions or her frustration or whatever have you in regards to Carrie in a puzzle that seemed very genuine. But I don't know. Like, I think that she has also done some things such as putting multiple names on that board during the first competition of the season, and I think that enough people are sus of her that like I don't know. She's a very middle ground in terms of how I feel about her right now. I don't know.
Sorry, I know I keep talking about this, but it's because like we don't get to hear that much who they put on their quiz of who they thought the mole was. So like I really was like, whoa. But Brent said on the quiz that he put Liv for that third quiz, which, you know, then it was the fourth quiz that he went out on. But like, if he's still thinking that same process, like, it just seems like she's probably not the mole, but I know everyone changes their mind. I would change my mind a billion times if I was playing. So,
so I mean, I agree with you, but I do think something else that Brent said was that like he split on 6 people. Now I don't know if that was the same quiz or like that was just his tactic among them.
That
But
was the quiz he was on. Yeah, that's when he split 6.
So it was so it would have been a quiz after then. But like I don't know. I think that I mean they answered that for a question, but like they could have like put answers elsewhere. And I think that Liv is like, I don't know. Like she hasn't technically done too much that they're showing to be like off. Like even when she's like, you know, not helping the most in the challenge, it doesn't really seem sabotagey. Just like when the guys, I guess Davey had figured out the code in that code breaker competition when they were outside. And she just was like, I'm just gonna stay out the way. Like it didn't seem sabotagey at all. So I don't really know what's giving me reservations about her. I think that it's just because not enough, like a few people are sus of her, but not enough.
Yeah. So I guess because we brought it up so many times, and I think the cast, I think Liv brought it up in the server. So I had ragged on the cast on the last after show about I'm shocked that the players all honestly shared their answer to question 20. And I think Liv came in saying that like as a cast, they kind of were all using question 20 as like a buffer more so than like who they actually thought was the mole. Basically, they were using that question of, in the moment, I think that I have not put a lot of answers on this person, and I'm nervous that I am too low on this person, that it could send me home, and is not necessarily a true indication that I think that they're the mole, but it's definitely an indication that I am unsure if they are, and I'm worried about the score that I currently have on that person. So I will give them the credit where it is. That's how they're truly using that question. They're not necessarily using it as a true indicator of who their mole is. Because I know they will absolutely come in the comments once they watch this in a couple days. Be like, we don't use that question as who we think the mole is. It's for our splits. So I will.
I mean, I get that, but like as a viewer, it's like, what else are we like? And then every single person has to be using it differently, right? Like not everyone thinks exactly the same way.
I think to your point, Tayy, like I think that I think this is kind of where the difference where like I guess people who do the mole often or like have played Subversion and people who haven't, because like I remember you saying that and I instantly was thinking like I used to do that all the time where like I would just put an extra point towards somebody where I was just like, oh, I'm nervous, I don't want to go out on a 3 or so. So like that's what I assumed that a decent bit of people who had played the mole had done. So I was shocked that like you were shocked that so many people had like been honest with a question like that.
So, because I pretty much never interact with the people on site, I'm busy doing quite literally everything else. So, like during their socialization time, I'm like not around, nor am I listening to them. So, coming into this cast, there's a lot of people who are kind of fresh to the mall. So, like I was kind of in the box of assuming that they were thinking more like Tayy in the sense of they're gonna honestly answer that question versus they are so focused on a split per se. But learning now after the season, kind of immediately, either through conversation or through watching the online series or whatever, pretty much everyone was on the split train. in terms of like early on their focus on their split. So initially I was caught off guard watching it back, being like, I'm shocked everyone's sharing this because there's some mole newbies here in this bunch that I felt like would have wanted to keep that information to themselves. But it seems like everyone was kind of on the same page. It's like we're all using question 20 for a split analytic. So, but Liv has done a lot. I mean, I know you all have been saying that Liv is not at the forefront of your minds. I mean, you've got, as you said, Jabbar, her doubling up on names in episode 1. She also, in episode 1, wasn't the most helpful with the memorization part of remote control. She was so focused on the pets at watching Miss Mojo and kind of taking time away from memorizing the cards, as well as kind of not being on the same page as everyone. They kind of all were picking cards from different angles, which created a lot of confusion. She didn't take any money in the chamber. During mail trail here in this last episode, just because it's fresh in my mind, she didn't really give any information. She really just went in there looking for dominoes or an exemption, but she didn't really give out any information there. She was so focused on the animals and quiz room. You bring up the logic squares and her kind of wanting to take a step back. But it's such a classic mole trope. If the mole knows the team is wrong and someone is posing a wrong idea, the mole is so quickly going to be like, yep, sounds good to me. You can take the blame for all of this. I will just sit back and let the team fail and you get all the heat. I get nothing.
That's true.
She's had a good mix of in your face versus kind of being more of a follower and letting the team kind of down a wrong path. So people are suspicious of her. I mean, everyone has people that they are just like, there's someone in the game that is suspicious of every single person left in the cast. Some obviously more than others, but Liv is someone who does have a few people looking at her. Any last thoughts on Miss Liv Pearson? All right. Another person who is getting a lot of fanfare lately in terms of people thinking, have we been duped all along? It's Karthik. Let's talk about Karthik.
Girl.
I feel similarly. When everyone is sabotaging, you can just look like you're the one trying the hardest if everyone else is trying to appear as the mole. Like, that would be such a good mole strategy, I feel like. Like, no, I've put so much money in the pot. I've tried so hard. I did this. I'm the town hero.
I don't know. Maybe because I'm using meta, I've played with Karthik in 2 like long-term games. I just don't think that like he's like a really good bluffer. And like it's kind of showing just like the way I felt about him like in those games just manifests itself on screen, which is leading me to believe that he's not the mole. Like he's very earnest, very similar to Gavin. I mean, I can see it. But like, especially, I think that the most suspicious thing that he's done, in my opinion, was going back to like the episode 2 code breakers or landmines competition, where like he got to the end and in his confessional, he said that he knew that Brett's answer was correct. And still like, he undoubtedly knew that Brett's answer was correct, whatever the question was. But like he still kind of opted to like jump off. I don't know if that was Karthik wanting to be like team leader-esque or like whatever was happening with that. But I was like, okay, Karthik, that's kind of suspicious. But I mean, in terms of like the squares competition in episode 4, based off the edit, I am inclined to believe that he was one of the more vocal people, shifting people around towards the later portion of that competition. And they did outscore the other team by a great deal, at least like about $20 or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, you brought it up. I think you brought it up when you talked about Matt. Like the mole's not going to sabotage everything. And I think that's also hard for the people that were playing this season, as they kind of were expecting the mole to sabotage everything and anything under the sun. When the mole has to they have to flow. They need to, blend in, because there are challenges that have more leadership positions. And if they are, maybe super suspected, they're not going to be in those positions. So they need to like find a ground between, being a player and being a mole, as well as, testing the waters. If the cast thinks that overt sabotages aren't people who are being the mole, then maybe they engage in that. But if they think the cast is, looking or is ruling out people who are kind of in the background, not doing much, maybe the mole starts to kind of take on that strategy. Like they're trying to blend in as much as they can. So, to Karthik's credit, if Karthik is the mole, he's not going to sabotage everything. I mean, Chamber of Temptation is the one thing that still baffles my mind, that he went through the entire circle and took nothing. He had multiple opportunities to take money if he is the town hero, if he is, what he paints himself out to be, and then passed on multiple attempts to take money. His last opportunity before exiting with nothing was money. $40, the most in the entire challenge, and he still opted not to take it. I mean, yeah, the quiz or the minefield trivia got to the end and fought for him to be the one to like be the hero to take it home, and was wrong and lost it all, instead of letting Brent, who he knew was right, take have Brent be the one to take it. I mean, in episode 1, he fought really hard for the exemption, and basically his presence took away a lot of money. Him and Anthony, their presence at the challenge took away a lot of money. Again, like he comes again. That's why you see, I think it's Craig's confessional this episode, where he's like, God damn, like Karthik is so likable that we've all been drawn in to like him. But when I like take a look back, what has he truly done and added? And people are like, God damn, that's what's so hard. Is like, just because you act like you're a player and you're for the pod doesn't mean that that's actually, the reality of the situation. I mean, Mail Trail, he seemed very helpful in terms of, organizing the thoughts, but he didn't let his fucking finger off the walkie-talkie to hear that Anthony was like, can you please slow down? Can you repeat those things? Because Karthik never let go. Anthony couldn't talk back. So Karthik just rattling off shit, and it doesn't end up leading to anything. And Anthony has to use other people in the back half of the challenge to kind of redo what Karthik did, because he read it off too quickly. So a lot of things. I mean, Karthik is the big reason Quiz Room fails for his team, because he is so stuck on this. It's a 6-digit code for some reason.
Yeah.
But another person who's done a lot, but comes across super playery, like on sites, but people are starting to think that'd be a perfect position for them all.
The tomb thing, was it like $40, but then he would have had to get 30 seconds
30 seconds to his quiz, yeah. Which
he knew about.
Yeah.
I was like, I wouldn't want 30 seconds off my like second quiz. No one had gone home. Was that the first episode?
No one had gone home yet. It was a double, but
it was the double. Like, to me, I was like, I understand not wanting 30 seconds, because I would be nervous for that. $40 is a lot of money, but
people's confusion with his decision, though, is that Devin's strategy was to go around the entire thing, memorize them all, and then tell the team, and then the team decided what they would take once Devin told everyone what it was. So Karthik should have known what was in all the envelopes if Devin articulated his plan, went back to the team and said, here's what's in every envelope. And Karthik still... town hero, knew where the money was, still didn't want any of it. Sure, he maybe didn't want the $40 in the 30 seconds, but passed up on $25, $20.
Yeah.
Many opportunities to take.
That's a good point.
Didn't take.
Yeah. That's also assuming that he did remember as well. Like
also depends on Devin remembering, or that if Karthik remembered what they were.
Mm-hmm.
I will say too, like for people, like to me, I'm like the people I know, but like Karthik particularly probably lived to a little bit Gavin, like that he's good at like certain things. So like I think back to, there was a puzzle that he did, I think with Liv, and they like did it really well, super easy, finish it well. So like if he is the mole, it's smart to do well at the things that people already know you're good at, like puzzles. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so that would be like, yeah, look at how good I did this puzzle. And then when there's things that people might not think you're quite as good at, like that would be where you'd probably sabotage more.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, Karthik's going higher on my list.
Yeah. Mwahahaha. Alrighty, let's move to Craig. Is Craig your other maybe, Jabbar?
He is my other maybe because me personally, I don't see it, but I'm inclined to like look a little bit deeper because I'm assuming that a lot of players in the game see him as like a top contender to be the mole. I felt like he's been pretty, I was about to say faithful for a second. He's been pretty, helpful, or at least I guess seeming to be helpful. Like him and Jack crushed their portion of the thing. And I can't remember. Which now I can't remember who took what exactly. I'm assuming he took a +1, but like the fact that they did it, I'm assuming they did it in a decent bit of time. Like it was pretty quick,
decently quick.
Yeah, the fact that like they were able to just do it, get it over with, and go back to helping with the puzzle. Yeah, I mean, and there's just other instances where I think that he's been pretty, competent and well, but like. Clearly, he's doing something that's, making him high sus for people. So,
I don't know.
That's I don't know. He's such a mystery.
I feel like he's someone like the longer he's in, the more I'm like, are you the mole?
Yeah.
Like, or do you just know who the mole is and you just keep doing really well on all the quizzes?
Yeah, he gets put in last in the execution engine challenge in episode 5, so the cast is like as a universally convinced he's going nowhere. So either they think he's the mole or they think that he's on to the right. He's in the right area, but yeah, he definitely gets ranked dead last in the order. So they all think pretty confidently he's good to go. I mean, his stuff that he's done in these challenges has been really great at anchoring. He's been a really good anchorer. He comes in, says an idea, and the team goes with it. And a lot of the times he's been wrong. Logic squares. Anthony is convinced he's in square 3. And one switcheroo that Craig leads, he's like, great, I know I'm in 1 and Liv's in 3. And you see Anthony very confused. And then Davey's like, great, well, if we know that Liv and Craig are in 1 and 3, then I've solved this. But that is rooted in the fact that Craig is wrong about Liv and her positioning. He roots them completely incorrectly in quiz room, being like, memorize everything in the room because they're going to remove something. Instead of allowing them to organically look around the room and see things that maybe stand out rather than having to memorize everything. Very quiet in Mail Trail as well. He's also in the limelight a lot because of Matt's bringing a lot of attention to him and the fact that he leads a lot of things. He takes the leadership roles in a lot of challenges that don't go well. He doesn't step off of his answer in Minefield Trivia despite being correct, and is one of the biggest supporters in Karthik stepping off as well. He also follows Liv blindly to let's even triple up on some people in the very first challenge. So he has a lot of attention on him for all those reasons. Like he is kind of the leader that everyone's kind of looking at being like, you've led us a lot to a lot of not money. And people go back to that $40 in 30 seconds that he took. Him and Jackie are the two people who took it. And a lot of people are like, it'd be a perfect thing for the mole to take. Take the most money, take the risk of the 30 seconds. And of course you would survive on it because you're the mole. You don't take the quiz.
I will say the most suspicious thing that I've seen from him was actually in the first challenge of the first episode where like his group has this sound like thing where they can hear the interviews and he gets off, I'm assuming, pretty quickly. And I understand kind of going back and just being like, whatever. But like, I feel like if you stay, you can kind of help the other people narrow down who they don't have based off of who you do have. So I don't know. I think even though he got out, the fact that he didn't help when like they're challenged, you can kind of narrow down by process of elimination.
Yep. And they also, they're also 3 of the, because it's Jackie, Liz, and Craig. They each also our answers to them. So like if Craig went to go help Liz and hears his interview, he can be like, that's me. But also, yeah, they each were unique answers, 6, 5, and 4, which adds up to 15. So Craig could have told Liz, or even on his way out, been like, hey, y'all, I wrote the correct answers for mine were A, B, C, and D. Don't write them down because I had them, so you won't. Is another big one that, yeah, he didn't. And then also, leads on to Liz's comment that she's almost done, which then, drains off another minute or 2 minutes because Craig's like, no, we should wait on Liz. She's almost done. And she wasn't. So that ate into time that they could help revive people at the end of the challenge. So Craig's done a lot as well. He's also kind of in this echo chamber as well, that he's just a name that's constantly out there. And people are just unsure of, are people pushing it because they want people to think it's Craig when they know it's not Craig? Are people actually sus of Craig? He's just a name that is out there to the point that the cast felt the most confident he would stay this episode. Obviously, he does. So,
well, if people didn't, okay, both Gavin and Jackie say Craig was their answer for who was the mole. And so that's two people who, if we're going on the theory that they didn't put a lot of points on him, so they added an extra point on him at the end, like, then I'm like, that makes me think that maybe he's not the mole, because like they're getting by without putting a lot of points on him, except for that one extra one at the end then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. But then the detonator game, he drew in the picture one, he drew something. I just remember someone being like, what does that have to do with the word? But I can't remember if that was like, I was just like, that was weird. But he wasn't a detonator, right? So it didn't matter.
He was not. So he got clocked pretty quickly. Liv, on the other hand, was a really good liar in that challenge and almost took money out by convincing the group that she was one when she wasn't at all. I forget which, so that's episode 3. So I think that's Johnny and Hannah's after show. They brought up that maybe a potential strat for the mole in that challenge is to act like a really bad liar. Be like, oh my God, I'm such a bad liar. I could never be the mole because I got caught so easily.
Yeah.
Which people looking at Matt, Lauren, Brent, Craig, people who got caught, Jack, who got caught so easily, didn't really put up much of a fight, being like, I'm such a bad bluffer. People are like, but that's a perfect ruse for the mole. So he falls into that bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you love it? It could be anyone. Isn't that so much fun?
Really?
We'll move on to the final group of 3 players. Anthony, Davey, and Jack Miller. We'll start with Anthony, who was a super, I guess Craig took a step back from being the leader here in episode 5. And by God, Anthony said, let me step up to the plate. And he led both of these challenges. So let's talk about Anthony.
So I don't think Anthony's the mole, but I think that I can see Anthony winning or knowing who the mole is or thinking that he knows who the mole is. I'm just like trying to wrap my brain around him telling them that he found the piece on the box when, like, I don't know. I could have sworn I saw him pull it from the pocket. And to me, that screams like, I know who was over there, and I think I have an idea of who could have put it there, but I don't want to tell anybody else. So because of that, I think that he might either be on to the mole or thinks that he is. And I'm inclined not to believe that he is the mole because of that.
Anthony, I just feel like has been playing very selfishly, like throughout the game. The thing with Karthik where they were trying to get the exemption and tried to make that deal, like that's such a selfish play. And just there was something in the first episode too that I was like, I don't know, I don't remember. And the puzzle thing, like just so many things. I don't know. It's like if people know the online game coming into this, they're probably like, oh, they wouldn't make Anthony the mole again. So like I feel like he gets the benefit of getting to play a little more like that, because I think off the bat, probably people just assume he's not the mole for meta reasons. But then I'm also like,
they can make it to him.
And that's what has people freaking out a little bit coming here at the top 10, is that everyone had the same thought. There's no way he's the mole back to back. And then people started being like, well, he's acting quite literally the exact same way he acted in Subversion 4.
Yes.
Selfish at every point he can be. He's going for the exemption in episode 1. He takes 2+1s in episode 2. He convinces Carrie to take 2+1s in episode 3 on top of already having a +1 in Puzzle Break. Anytime he has an opportunity to go for an advantage over money, he goes for it. Absolutely. He is liked enough and trusted enough to take leadership roles in these kind of last 2 challenges. And Mail Trail, he single-handedly removes $40 by picking wrong envelopes. That's definitely were discussed in the challenge. You can hear him being discussed in the episode, and he picks the wrong ones. So people have this kind of concern that he's playing the exact same way that he did in Subversion 4, and that everyone has ruled him out, or everyone ruled him out coming into the game, to the point that he was allowed to do things like this and no one look sideways at him, when people are now being like, well, goddamn, we've allowed him to fly completely under the radar this entire time because we all just assumed. And then now that they're looking back, because this is around the point where people start to really sit down with themselves and think about what they want to do. This is the point where people are like, I'm down to like 3 people and I'm going to go on those 3 people. And as they're looking back on the last 5 episodes, this is where people are like, well, son of a bitch, if I'm actually like connecting money and how people have been suspicious, Anthony is up there. Doesn't get his answer correct in Minefield Trivia, just selfish everywhere, anywhere. He knew he was in square 3 in Logic Squares, yet let Craig tell the group, Liv goes there. A perfect plan for them all to let a bad plan go awry and not take the fault for it. Yeah. Just a lot of things that people are also considering now, being like, damn, he is playing the exact same way.
But then to that same point, it's so hard because it's like you can go both ways with it. Like, of course he's going to play the exact same way, because everyone would think like it would just be so good for him if he was just the player to also be playing the exact same way, because it would make people think you were the mole. So
well, I think he's very interesting where, like, he was the mole or whatever have you, but I'm pretty certain that most of these people probably didn't follow a season of Subversion, like the online version. So I don't think that like they would know how he would be as the mole. And to be honest, yeah, Liz was there, but like she was out the first round of this game. So I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I can see a world where he could be the mole, just because like he's been the mole before, but like these people won't know how he truly played. Even Jackie is alone, and she probably doesn't even know him. So
I think it's less about like how he played and more just they know that he was the mole. So like you could just write him off because you just know.
That's actually a really good point though too, Tay, because like now that you mention that, I'm wondering, like, because obviously we, as in you and I, don't know the meta behind how people really felt about Anthony. Like, are they scoring him low because like they think that there's no way for him to be the mole and they're going home? Like,
no one said in the quiz competition that Anthony would. No one put him as their mole pick. So I know that doesn't mean much, but
yeah, and you'll see it. You'll see it next episode. His name is gonna start coming into consideration next episode a lot, because if you look closely at Execution Engine, he tries to put himself much earlier into the execution lineup. When he was like, I expected you all to put me super early because I've had 5+1s, and a lot of you think that I'm only here because of my advantages and therefore I can't learn as much from my quizzes because I'm just buffing them with +1s, where some of y'all learn a lot more because you don't have advantages and you're staying. So he was like, oh, I expected all of y'all to stick me at the very front of Execution Engine. Oh, you don't want me to go there? And people are like, the mole would absolutely want to be one of the first couple of people because that's an a green screen to rip up your money. And he also he took the lead, a perfect role for the mole. If the mole knows who's on to them, they know how to perfectly put people in the right order to get enough green screen to take away a lot of money. But he kind of gets a little bit of overwritten a little bit because he had an idea of what he thought the group wanted, and then it didn't align with what he was expecting and kind of folded to the group. But his name's going to start coming up a lot more, especially because of Execution Engine. So another person is coming into the limelight because of some kind of sus things as of late.
Okay, who all hasn't had no advantages? Is there anyone who's had none?
Karthik has had nothing. Oh my god. I'm dying. Karthik's had nothing. Gavin has had nothing. Is that it? Oh, Matt has had nothing. Oh no, that's a lie. Matt had an exemption. That might be it. I'm trying to let me look at these people. Davey has had something. Jack had something. Anthony's had something. Craig has. Karthik has not. Liv has. Gavin has not. Matt has. Has Jackie. Jackie has not. And
Okay.
Lauren.
Jackie, Gavin, and Karthik. Not sure if that helps or hurts.
No, either.
Not the mole list. Also, being the people without any advantages.
Because that's also a part of it. Is like, the mole doesn't need any advantages. They don't need that. They're fine.
But they need to seem like they need it. Like, I feel like you all give out so many +1s and exemptions at this point, where it's like you run the risk of being more suspicious if you don't take any of those things at all. I think.
Yeah, I think if I'm the mole, I'm trying to get advantages.
And a perfect ruse to not go for them because both of y'all think that the mole would go for them. It's the perfect storm of would they or would they not, and because people think that they would, then maybe do they not, because they expect everyone to think that they would. It's such a cluster. This format is so brilliant because you just literally talk yourself in fucking circles of like.
But another reason why you would want to take one, I would think, is like you can possibly secure other people don't get them, like people who you might think are dangerous to your position in the game. Like, at least if you have them, you know that they don't.
Yeah. Let's move to Davey. Davey's an interesting character. Another person who has really, much like Matt and Karthik, has really gotten a lot of sus lately. Let's talk about Davey.
Yeah. Davey's public enemy number one for me right now. I don't know. I picked him just off a whim, but now I can genuinely see it. It's just, I don't know. Like, I think he's very similar to Matt in my mind, where like he's had an episode or so where he's had drastic game situations where like he got multiple answers wrong when they were kind of locked in the room, but then he was the one that kind of figured out like the algorithm as to what was happening with the lock boxes outside. But even with that, he was one of the correct answers and stepped off. And like he also kind of came up or like figured out the algorithm, and it seemed like it came at a time where it frazzled people more, or it kind of made them more like, all over the place. Yeah. So yeah, he figured out something really big brain, but like how much did it really help?
Yeah. That's why, we'll get to,
It was the Simona execution episode to me that was like the first time where I was like, okay, Davey. But it's like, I can't really explain why, but because they both got the +1s and then she went home, and it seemed like they had a good relationship, and she was the one that it felt like kind of convinced him, because I forget exactly the situation, but like she was like, we should do the +1s, really. And he was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very easy way. Yeah.
And so, yeah, some more onto why I think it could be Davy. Like going back to the Simona thing, I think the perfect place for a mole to be in that competition is a detonator. And two of the detonators have went home, and the other is Jackie. So I think Davy is like the feasible detonator potential mole option. It just makes sense for the mole to kind of be able to be the one to control the game in that way. Um, Also, I don't think Davy went up for any of the challenges
No.
in the puzzle competition. And I think if the mole is not somebody who went up in a puzzle competition, that makes sense to me too. Because if a piece goes missing, or whatever the case may be, they've had their hands on the puzzle for the whole 45 minutes or whatever. So I don't know. Things are kind of.
He also didn't look surprised when Carrie got executed. Like that, everyone is like, and Davy's like, just like looks at her, and I'm like,
He could have just been ready for her ass to go.
Oh, there were plenty of people that were shocked but pleasantly happy to see Carrie go. Because she's a shit stirrer. She's a shit stirrer. She was someone that people, while they were starting to like come off of her, just still could not get rid of her as a potential. Like they could just never stop thinking like, is it just the person who is right in front of us? So there were plenty of people who were very happy to see Miss Carrie go. Yeah, Davy's done a lot. I mean, yeah, like again, the perfect trope of seeming helpful without truly being helpful, figuring out the algorithm, and then, puts the blame on, Craig for it going wrong. Didn't answer questions right in quiz room. He was correct in mindful trivia, but refused to step off of it.
He also, yeah. So I mean, in the first challenge, like he had a confessional that I thought was so interesting, where he said him and his group were upset with the puzzle team because him and his people could have did it in like he could have did that puzzle or any of those puzzles in like 30 or 45 seconds. And when he did that confessional, I was like, okay. But then when he got out, we see a later shot of him working on one of those math puzzles, and he ain't getting it in no 30 or 45 seconds. And I'm like, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's just a lot he's done, and and much like I would say more Matt than Karthik. I think people are sussing Karthik because of the social aspect. People are realizing how likable he is, and people are starting to see that. But like Matt and Davey have done a lot in the last couple of challenges that have them front of mind. But that's the question I think around Davey and Matt, is that they weren't popular names at the very beginning, and now they are popular names. Is that because the mall was doing a good job hiding early and now isn't doing such a great job and it's coming to light, they're kind of putting the pieces together? Or is it Matt and Davey see a benefit to being really sus right now because they weren't big names and now they want people to think that they're the mole, so people score lower? They saw the benefit now with Carrie and Brent and Simona leaving. Decoys are leaving left and right, and do they see an advantage of being a decoy now that those positions are kind of vacant? So those are the two biggest kind of questions around Davey and Matt, because they have really come alive in these last couple of episodes. Really, I mean, Matt's beanbag toss comes to mind as a big like what the fuck moment, and then just Davey all of episode 4 is like a what the hell is going on here on this day. So maybe a very popular name around the viewer parts. I mean, as well as on site, but very popular amongst viewers right now, especially with Carrie gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the biggest decoys have kind of gone. It's going to be interesting what happens next.
Oh, normalized decoy staying through the entire game. It's okay. Let's move to someone who. Oh, there were people who were like, there's no way Jack Miller is the mole. And now there are people eating those words and being like, oh, damn, it could be Jack Miller. Is Jack Miller the mole? Let's talk Jack Miller.
You could go first this time if you want.
I was one of those people coming into the game. I thought there's no way that Jack is the mole. But even now, I mean, I guess he's similar to like a Karthik, really, where it feels like he's trying really hard in every challenge. And he's putting money in the. I don't know. I go back and forth. He's doing well. I feel like he's trying really hard. He's putting money in the pot. He feels not selfish. And then it just makes me like, but is it just because you're the mole and everyone else is just doing so badly and tanking everything for you? Like, you don't have to do that much to make money in your own pot. I would say he's gone up in my suspicion, but of these three, I feel like Davey is really the one of the three that I'm most suspicious of. So Jack, I don't know, middle range mole for me.
Yeah, I've definitely grown very suspicious of Jack in the recent episodes, mainly because I think that Anthony is suspicious of Jack, and I believe Anthony. Once again, the puzzle competition, Jack, along with actually Davey and Lauren, were people who were working on that specific puzzle. And Jack, like, I think he announced that like he wasn't being helpful or like he wasn't really doing a good job. Another person who could have hit that piece or who had ample opportunity to kind of move a piece if you're not, doing a puzzle and you're shifting pieces, what really are you doing? And I think Anthony actually, I don't know, this is me psychoanalyzing Anthony, but I think that he thinks Jack probably was in a position to shift that piece. And I think I am of the mindset as well. Jack got out, he finished that first math decoder really quickly in the first episode. But then he stayed and got locked out because, he couldn't finish Simona's. So like, I was also thinking, you appear to be helpful, but like, you showed that you were helpful or useful, but like your team still didn't prosper because like they didn't get your code because you got locked out. Yeah.
Wasn't Jack in the quiz room where wasn't he like, oh, the code is a number, like let's try just this number, but then Karthik was that Jack, or am I getting confused? Karthik was like, no, it has to be a long number.
Jack solved it. He was with Brent.
Yeah.
Brent was like, let's make it longer. And he's like, yeah, Brent, you go make it longer. Go for it.
Yeah.
So did we see the footage of like Jack being like, oh, it's 42. I think we should go with 42. Or was Jack more so like, it could be 42. It could be this or that. Like,
I don't think it's seen in the episode, but he solves it because of the math equation. Or he solves it either from the meaning of life or the math equation. And that you see the footage of them walking back in the room, and Brent's like, what is it? He's like, 42. And Jack very much clearly seems wanting to lock in 42, and then allows Brent to be like, let's just add 03 at the end. And then from then on out, they never really go back to that. Again, that's another thing that we didn't really talk about with Davey or with Gavin, is that people have got eyes on all three of them because they came to the solution. Gavin, before the challenge even really gets started, is calling out 42 as a potential answer. Davey solves the algorithm, and then Jack also knows the answer is 42. So people are like, the mole knowing the answer, trying to seem helpful and proposing it, and then when the answer gets revealed, they're like, oh, we were so close, Jack, you would have been so good, you helped the team so much, but then still worth $0 because Jack doesn't lock it in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Jack is a lot like Liv for me in this game, where when you go back and you calculate all that they've done, it's a lot. It's just he doesn't come to mind because he's never the like main sabotager of the episode. Like episode 1, you've already covered it. Episode 2, he takes a +1 in the chamber, doesn't take money at all. He also is someone who gets one of his trivia questions wrong and urges Karthik to be the person to go and not Brent. Episode 3, he goes again selfishly for the +1 during puzzle break, doesn't go for the $10. And he's one of the people in the group of is the mole trying to look like a bad liar, and Blunder Boom is that's the role the mole's taking. We've talked about Quiz Room. He is, I mean, looked like he's dead for a minute during Logic Squares. He looked dead for a minute, and seemed quite unbothered to be helping, despite being a very analytical person. Someone that's because he's on the team that like they don't know what the fuck that they're doing. They're not memorizing anything. Karthik thinks he solved it, but has no merit behind the math. Is someone that I think a lot of people who know Jack would have been like, this is up your alley to have solved this. That's episode 4. And then episode 5, he is one of the people that really wants to be early in Execution Engine. And Matt calls it out, being like, if you're the mall, you would absolutely want to be at the very beginning, because because you know you're getting a green screen. You want that for you. It ends up getting him relegated to 3rd because he fights so hard to get 2nd that Matt fights against it and gets him relegated to 3rd. He also goes really early in Mail Trail, which could possibly, depending on, we'll talk about this more with, this is airing after the 5th after show, but we'll talk more with the after show guests about where they think the mole would have wanted to be in that lineup. And there are definitely people inside the mall that wants to be early in the lineup, kind of find a bunch of dominoes and stash them somewhere. So like there's belief there that because Jack is so early in the lineup, he initially was 2nd until again Matt fights to relegate him farther back in the order. So Jack is just in a lot of right places at the right time and isn't really being seen as like the biggest sabotager in the room. But when you kind of add it all up, him and Liv have a lot to their credit that they have sabotaged, but because they're not the biggest name of the episode, like how Matt and Davey have really owned episodes 4 and 5, you kind of forget about Jack. You forget about Liv, you forget about what they're doing. But again, this is the crucial point where everyone's kind of taking it all in. So you'll see a lot of suspicions change coming for the rest of the season, because I think this is like the moment where people are like sitting down during social time. They're no longer focused so much on let's talk spreads. Let's talk, who you're set of. This is the moment to actually sit down with your thoughts, your notes, what's happened over 10, 12, 14 missions, and what is the clear we're trying to put here. So you'll see suspicion start to change once people have that moment to like just sit down and breathe. So
I will say, going back to like Jack and Davey and Gavin knowing the code, of those 3 personalities, like I would expect Jack, of the 3 of them, to push the least of being like, this is the code. Like I can see Davey's personality, to me, is the type of person where if you think you know the answer, you're going to make that person put that answer in, And so to me, that's more suspicious of Davey than it is Jack, just based on their personalities. And Gavin, I feel like kind of falls in between. Like I could see him going either way, but I lean more toward like if there are bigger personalities in the room, other people that think they're right, Gavin kind of like being like, no, you guys are right. But Davey, I don't see him letting go if he knows he's right and he wants to get his answer in there.
Yeah, Davey is very dominant, and honestly, his confessionals are very sassy for sure. So yeah, I definitely agree with Tay.
But then that same regard, like I'm like, then Liv to me is a personality that if she knows the answer, she's gonna push hard for it. And so for her, if she was to do something like that, like, and then Karthik, he's very like dominant too. But then I feel like they're playing according to their personalities, even if some things are sabotaged a little here and there. Like to me, getting a trivia answer wrong, like you're not going to get every trivia answer correct. So getting 2 right and 1 wrong doesn't scream mole to me and wouldn't make me as suspicious. But knowing then that Karthik knew that Brent was right, like I don't know, there's so many layers.
It's a lot of layers, but we've reached the point in time because you 2 are here. You get to rewrite your past if you want to. you can keep, because you both have your mole and your winner pick still in the game, so you can stick to what you did 5-6 weeks ago, or you can make a new choice. So we'll start with, who do you think is winning the season? We've got 5 more episodes, a lot of more executions to go. Who do you think is winning it right now?
I think Liv.
Crap. I'm torn between 2 people, but I think I'm gonna go with Anthony.
Good picks, good picks. Alrighty, the question we all want to know the answer to: who is the mole?
Oh. I think I'm sticking with Lauren.
Lauren.
Yeah, I'm torn between 2 people. So I'm stuck between Matthew and Davey, but I think I'm gonna stick with my initial gut.
Alrighty, sticking with it. If one of y'all's right, that's so impressive. That like from the beginning,
based on
5
vibes,
episodes in, you're still sold on it, which I think is just a testament to like the editing, as well as just like how everyone is portraying themselves on camera. Like all of that factors into the mystery of it all. So like it is a fun mystery. We got 2 different mole answers, and I imagine if we had brought in other people, they'd have different answers as well. So that's all we have for this Deja Vu double feature Mole Watch Part 2. Episode 6 will air this Thursday on March 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that will be episode 6. Fun twists to come in episode 6. You're going to want to be there. But for me, for Jabbar, for Tayy, and for my production members, for the production members that are backstage, we're peace on out, and I look forward to catching y'all live Thursday at 8 p.m. I'll be in the chat chatting along, and then I'll be back a week from today to recap episode 6. Bye, everyone.